bro, dog.
Dude, you're
I
killing me.
booged it, bro. I booged it. Oh, he's going for it. Oh, you don't see him. Look.
Yeah.
Oh, he's going for it. Oh, he bit it.
She bit it, dude. Hold up. There's two of them.
There's.
Got it.
Bro. Oh my God, Belgium. Get her. Get her. Get her. Get her.
Bro, hold on. Oh my God, Elge. Elge. Bro. I'm honestly sorry.
No, hell no, bro. Hell no, bro.
That was your fish.
Hell no, bro. Hell no. That wasn't my fish, bro.
That was your fish.
No, that was meant to be. No, it wasn't my fish at all. Hell no. Put that up, bro. Fuck no. Put that up, dog. Be proud of that. No, be proud of that. Hell no, bro. I had
Dude,
my
I didn't
shot.
think it was gonna bite.
Dude, I had my shot. Fuck no. That's all you, bro. Hell yeah, dog. I'm so high for it. I'm so high for you, bro.
Remember when fishing was fun? Good evening, folks. It is a pleasure to see you again, as we do. Well, we try to each and every Monday. We couldn't last week, obviously, because I was on call, and it was a busy on call, of course, with all the storms that we were dealing with. But regardless, it is awesome to be back to my happy place, which, of course, is with you folks, with CFN. And that video we shared, it is on our page. The reason I shared it is simply because with the current environment, there's a lot of anger. There's a lot of animosity, and I can't fix it. No one can. At the end of the day, we got to try and stay positive. We could be inundated with all the negativity in the world, but as long as we stay positive and focused on what we love, which is fishing. And I hate to make it sound that easy, because it isn't for some, for most. But at the end of the day, I don't care what happens in politics. Leave the politics in the House of Commons. I don't want to talk politics. I'm so sick of it. That video, it just summed up and kind of pushed the reset button for me. And that's why I was so eager to share it with CFNers. That is just raw, genuine emotion, and it all comes back to fishing. See what fishing can do. I mean, those two lads will probably talk about that situation, that story, till they die. It's just so amazing how, the guy who actually reeled in the fish felt guilty, and the gentleman who, missed it was so happy. You know what? It just sums up everything that we here at CFN try to do. And with the help of, some wonderful people that I want to just spend a couple seconds here talking about, Jim, love you come here. You're so positive, dude. I love what you bring to our community. Keep it up. Steve, I can't say enough about you, dude. Let the community say it for me, because they are so appreciative of everything you do, but you're a huge part of it. Richard, same thing. I wish I had the kind of time on my hands as you do. I wish I could keep up with a lot of the posts that you make, but at the end of the day, you keep us engaged and you keep it positive, which again is what we so desperately need right now. Positivity. We got to get back to that, because I'm just seeing so much anger, so much animosity throughout the fishing industry and the community at large that I don't know. I'm hoping we can share more videos like that, so that we can keep the Tonys positive in our community. Because, at the end of the day, it can go south very quickly. Someone makes a post, someone makes a comment on a post that, maybe taken the wrong way. And all of a sudden we're dealing with what we're dealing with the rest of the community, where we can't seem to get along. And I don't want to say as a whole, but, COVID really, it really stuck it to us. We had to sort of, I don't want to say reinvent ourselves, but we had to get reacquainted, because we were in exile and in such a dark place during COVID, and it pit people against one another. But at the end of the day, we got past it. We got through it. And we got to do the same thing in this case. It is what it is. I don't care who voted for who. It matters none to me. I really don't care. But can we just get back to fishing? Can we get back to the positivity, the happiness, the joy that brings fishing? I'll play the video again if I have to, because I'm telling you, I'm so determined that we get past this, because it really is. It's dragging us down. It's dragging all of us down. So I'm hoping that guys like Eve, you bring a great sense of positivity. Terry is a legacy member. We really appreciate your comments in the legacy chat. Stephen, I mean, the list goes on and on here. Joe, again, I love your passion, and I love your appreciation for what we do here. It means the world. James, you also, like, I'll be honest, the biggest takeaway from our Made in Canada show in Kitchener was your post. It summed everything up. At the end of the day, it didn't matter if it was a successful event. It was successful because of what you posted, what you shared with us, the experience that you had, and unfortunately the hill that you had to climb to get there. We can't thank you enough for that. And again, we can't thank enough of our CFNers for keeping it positive. Keep it positive, guys, because as I said, it's ugly out there, and I'm hoping it gets better real soon, because as I said, I hate the ugliness that I'm seeing right now. We gotta get past that. Anyway, Scottie, have you been working out? Looking like a million. Well, I really, Rocky, talk about positively. Listen, I don't know what I owe you, but I don't have enough in my pocket. I appreciate that. No, I wish I was working out. I've been busy with on call and work and various other things, but again, back to where I want to be, and I'm looking forward to seeing some pics of you and Ava in the new boat. I know you guys were out last year, and it's not new per se, but I'm looking forward to seeing more pics of you guys out enjoying the water, and all of you. Peter, likewise, dude. How you doing, my friend? Another one who tries to bring us together. The positivity again, Peter, and the attention that you pay to everyone in the community equally. It's not easy to do. Trust me, I know. And dude, you do a great job of it. So keep it positive, guys. At the end of the day, that's what it's all about. And something that I love seeing are CFNers enjoying other CFNers. This is Lloyd. This is Alex Henry. If you guys follow CFN, you know who these two are. They're out in Saskatchewan. They do this. Well, they've done it actually now 2 years consecutively. So I'm assuming it's going to become a tradition. But that's quite a beast you caught there, Lloyd. And of course, Alec, he is the giant slayer. If it's giants you're after, Alex Henry, he'll find them for you. But it's just great to see folks finally out fishing, getting away from the nonsense. But we got to see more of this. I really want to see more of this. Some other great things that are going on. Of course, there's all kinds of initiatives out there when it comes to it being spring, and the hard water season is now officially over. We got cleanups going on. We've got stocking initiatives that are going on. Jay might be able to help us highlight a few of those that are either going on or upcoming. But there's lots of great stuff happening just like this. So a big shout out to Peterborough Bassmasters for taking the time to beautify our planet and our area. And of course, a place where we spend a little bit of time targeting various fish. The Kawarthas is heavily fished, heavily pressured, but it's nice to see people taking the time to clean it up as well. A few other things that I wanted to share as well. I forget what this video is. Oh yeah, no, that's the one that I just played. Yeah. I also wanted to bring to light too, folks that have not attended one of our Made in Canada shows. They might not understand where the proceeds are going. A lot of people say you're just doing it for the sake of profit. Well, it might look like that, but it's not. We have put together, because this is our 10th anniversary, we have decided as a community that we want to embark on something that I think is long overdue and this community is in much need of. So I want to thank the entire Norris family who went down to Nanacoke. They were at the Nanacoke tackle swap. Not a huge event by any means, but you know what? It's grassroots, and that's the part that I love. And they went down there with the sole intent to just spread the message of I support the Made in Canada tackle industry. Some folks, you know, that come to our show really appreciate what it has to offer, especially for some of the sort of smaller outfits. But you guys are just as important. Big, small, it doesn't matter. You're all important. And what we're doing with the proceeds, all of the proceeds of the Made in Canada tackle shows, as well as the swag that is available. There's a QR code there. We are trying to get kids' sizes. We're trying to make it available across the board, no matter what size or shape that you are. That's the QR code there. If you want to learn a little bit more and you want to help with the Derby on Wheels, which I'm about to explain in a second, please head over to the Facebook page via that QR code, and you're going to learn a lot more of what we're doing. I'll give you a quick snippet. Big thank you so far to those who have already sponsored. Really appreciate this, but as you can see, it is going to be a trailer. And the idea of that trailer is it's going to house 200 pre-strung rods. It's going to have a fridge in there for all the worms. It's going to have a PA system so that you'll be able to broadcast to whoever is at the event. And plus, we're hoping to have a Starlink if things don't go south between us and the States in there as well, so you can broadcast to the masses. The idea of it is that you literally hook up to this trailer, you bring it to a venue where you have a derby that you don't necessarily have the means to put on. We want to help you out. CFN really wants to help you out. And I want to share, I do have it here. Just give me 1 second. It is the pamphlet. It kind of it does a fantastic job describing what this is all about. And I want to thank Brad again for putting this together, because this is my vision. It's awesome to see it come to fruition. So I really appreciate Brad doing this. The CFN Derby on Wheels is an industry initiative designed to assist organizations and clubs in planning and executing community fishing derbies and events. The Derby on Wheels will be an enclosed trailer containing all the equipment required to run a community fishing derby. The trailer will be loaned out at no charge to approved groups and can include all the tackle, bait, burgers, hot dogs needed to make the event a success. Volunteers will accompany the trailer to maintain and monitor the use of the equipment, but the event will be expected to provide their own volunteers to run the event. The cost of all the repairs and replacement will be shouldered by CFN and ongoing donations. But as I mentioned, 200 fish, well, it's now 250, but 250 pre-strung rods, 250 life jackets, a PA system. We have a cooktop, so we're going to be able to do food. We'll have the refrigerator to house the food as well as the worms, tackle, repair parts, prizes, and a whole bunch more. If you are interested in getting involved, if you're interested in being a volunteer, this is going to happen next year. We're putting it all together this year in hopes to have it ready for next year. So around this time, when these first events start happening, they're going to have the option. And I'll tell you, when I pitched it to Shimano, I remember Lee and Bobo saying, like, Scottie, this is exactly what we need, because at the end of the day, they're inundated with all kinds of calls. Hey, you know, can you do this? I've got this going on. Can you free up some whatever? They'll basically just say, hey, listen, call CFN. They'll help you out. They got everything that you're looking for. Just give them a call, and away we go. As I said, love this whole concept. Can't wait to get it going, and we are going to be taking it on tour next year. So if you are interested, please reach out to me, find out more, how you want to get involved, how you want to be involved. We'd love to see everybody a part of this, because this is truly something cool. Yeah, no worries, Rocky. You know what? It was a great turnout, and we were very appreciative of the people that showed up. The vendors, again, they hit it out of the park. Our vendors are so friggin' awesome. I can't say enough about our vendors. Corey, how you doing, buddy? Hot boxes in the house. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Dean Howard. This is a gentleman that will be a huge part of the Derby on Wheels. He volunteers for just about everything CFN does. So I thank you very much, Dean, for all you do and all you bring to our community. Real quick, because of course, as we just mentioned, it is the Leafs game. I'm sorry that there's a conflict. What are we going to do? We will do our best to try and keep it reasonable. But as I said, it's unfortunate, but we are struggling because the Leafs have now managed to get past the first round. Awesome. And anybody who's been watching hockey, real quick, anybody who's watched the Dallas game on Saturday and, of course, Winnipeg last night, we have been treated with some of the finest freaking hockey I think I've ever seen. Those two games alone were remarkable outcomes, unbelievable outcomes. So you want to, if you love hockey or like hockey and want to love it, I invite you to watch the playoffs because this is probably some of the best hockey I've seen. The talent is through the roof. As we mentioned, it is our 10th anniversary. Richard has been doing a fantastic job making sure that everybody has swag available so that if you go to an event, if you're doing something special, if you're out fishing and you want to look the part, you may not be able to look as good as Richard, but if you want to look the part, Richard is taking orders as we speak for our hoodie. It's a very light hoodie. It's something that you're going to be able to wear on those cool spring nights and cool fall days, even in the summertime when you get that cold front that goes through. It is a nice light hoodie. It's not a heavy hoodie, so it does you well. And of course, one other thing that we are working on and it is now available, of course, is the CFN commemorative 10th anniversary jersey. Walter has single-handedly put this together. And these are all made available as well through the Premier site. We will make sure that we make a post because that's the one thing that I have been lagging on just because I've been busy with all these other things. We will make sure that this is front and center so folks know where to order, where to get it, and be a part of this incredible movement. It is Monday. It would not be a typical Monday if I did not mention our two retreats. Of course, this is the 7th annual CFN retreat at Horwood Lake Lodge. It is going on August 10th to the 16th. I am so happy to announce there is one cabin available, and I don't even know how many beds are available in that cabin. There were 4, if I'm not mistaken. There might only be 3 now. But if you are looking to come, this is almost booked. So please don't hesitate. Reach out to Warren and Doors. Get your butt booked at a bed. We'd love to see you up there in August. As I said, it's $1,000 plus taxes for the week. Meals, boat rental, shared accommodations, fuel, bait, and a nightly fish fry are all included in that price. So we'd love to see you up there. Please get a hold of Warren and Doors and get yourself booked so we can see you up there. Of course, it's Monster Monday. And what better time to share a Monster Monday Macintosh Minute than right now? And there it is. So there it is. That is the 4th annual OFC Nation retreat. It's happening September 24th to the 28th, $820 per angler. It includes pretty much everything that is included at Horwood. And yeah, it's just a heck of a fishery. A great time, and we can't wait to get back to Camp McIntosh. So please get a hold of Tracy. That's all the information that you need. We're going to be sharing a QR code, which will make it even easier for you to get in touch and learn a little bit more about Camp McIntosh. I think that is all I have for announcements. Yes, it is. All right. We have the one and only Big Jim McLaughlin coming up right after a word. Well, it's his opening, and it's pretty kick-arse.
When he was born, he tried to reel in the umbilical cord. Bass named him as their personal best. His power pole came with a stripper. Forward-facing sonar uses him to find fish. Chuck Norris is his co-angler. He is the most interesting fisherman in the world. Stay fishing, my friends.
What are you doing?
Well, at least to me, you are. You're the most interesting.
I'm happy the Camp Park guy just dropped this off at the door. So here's funny, eh?
Well, is it okay? It looks broken.
No. It's a Shimano.
Oh, okay. Oh, it just looked bent.
2 hours ago, he dropped off a rod. Okay. It was a GLX chatterbait rod. So it's like an $850 rod.
Jeez.
And then he said, I forgot this one. It was in the truck. So he's the kind of guy he is. I know him. I think he wanted a new hat. He comes back at like 7:15. He drops this off. And it's like, I don't know, how much is the sell us? 84 bucks?
Yeah, 80 bucks, 80, 90 bucks.
89 bucks. And he drops off one of those that I picked out to use this year. I picked this out for fishing with stick baits.
Awesome. I have to say, Jim, you know me. I love my Celis for the drop shot.
Yeah.
I don't
It's
I
a
don't
little
know
heavier than the other ones, but it's 80 bucks, you know?
Yep.
So
Can't go wrong.
good ones today.
And I will say, Jim, I want to thank you again for helping out. A good buddy of mine I got a chance to talk to today and was very appreciative. I will share this unfortunate news. He said, Scottie, it was kind of cool because I was Jim's buddy for about 5 minutes during the conversation with Chris Giles. And he said, I don't even know who Big Jim is, but it was really cool to be his friend. So, you know what? Can you pass that on to him? I said, absolutely, I will. But they're taking care of all. But they're taking care of all the reels. So Shimano, I can't say enough about the service of Shimano. My buddy is he's going to buy more just because of the service that he received from Shimano. So thanks again.
Don't let them down though. Eh? Don't let them down with the clicker on the downrigger. That'll break anybody's clicker.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Jim, it's been a couple weeks. We haven't we've certainly talked, but we haven't seen one another. I know that you can appreciate what we're trying to do with that video at the beginning to try and get back to the positivity of what fishing is and what fishing represents.
Yeah, that was awesome.
I love that.
And you know, I've always, my favorite thing ever when I fished was when I fished in tournaments. My favorite thing was when a person I was fishing with would catch a fish, because it meant it was one less I had to catch, but I was still happy for them. Now, when I go out and somebody catches a fish now, I'm excited. I come home and I tell Tammy, hey, I was with so-and-so today, and he caught a 4-pounder. He never caught a 4-pounder before. And I'm more excited than the person is that caught it, you know? And I think that's just, I don't know, it's just having been through it and done it all, you know?
And I will say it's what makes you a successful guide. Ed's here with us, and he can share a host of those kinds of stories where, you know, I think he was just as proud, if not prouder, than the person who reeled it in some of the fish that were brought on his boat. But dude, as I said, I understand that people are passionate, and I love the fact that they are. But there's a limit, and I think we've surpassed it. We got to move on. We got to move on somehow, some way. We're going to get through this. But at the end of the day, it just I'm tired of seeing simple things like this rip us apart. And when I say simple, you can turn it off. You know, we're not going to fix anything as one person. We're not going to fix anything, but as a group of people, we can fix the world. And hopefully, if we can stick together and not be torn apart by all this drama, hopefully we can get there.
I'll be dead soon. I don't have to worry about it.
And then there's that. So I've noticed, Jim, you've been really upping the tying that you're doing there. The amount of jigs that I have
It was
seen.
funny, you know, that it's been off the deep end. When I got to BJ's on Saturday morning, and I dropped them off, I think it was close to 300 more to fill up the wall for the summer. And I'm sitting there, and this is without a word of a lie. Hey, Eddie, without a word of a lie, I said to Ben, I said, that's it. I'm officially caught up. What I'm tying now, I'm tying for fun. Some of the real fancy stuff you've seen me doing, 3 and 4 colors and that kind of stuff. And then I was just doing other stuff too, just doing it because I still like doing it. I find it, you know, like I was up this morning, like I said this morning, I beat the Robins. You know, it was just nuts. I was up so early, and that's going to get worse for me in the next month here. I'll be up at 3:30 soon, and there's nothing I can do about it. Nothing that I can do about it. But
So, Jim, I have to ask. I have to ask. Is this increase in demand? Do you think it's going hand in hand with what's happening with the states and tariffs and all that, or is it just?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think it's just. I think, you know, you're seeing more and more, like, you know, like the Lindners. Hey, buddy, how are you, man? You're seeing more and more of the Lindners pushing big time hair jigs. You know, I still remember that was the first time I ever met Al Lindner, and I gave him some of my jigs. And the high point for me was that when he was done doing the seminar at the Toronto Sportsman Show, when I saw him leaving the building, he was carrying my jigs in his hand, and it made me. I was like, I don't know, 22 maybe, and it just, yes. He didn't just leave them, you know what I mean? Or he had the little strip card that I had with the jigs on it. He had them with him, eh? And we talked about it after. He told me he caught tons of panfish on them because they were small ones.
Yeah.
Little, you know, really fancy little ones. So it was cool.
You know, it's such a.
But anyways, I'm sitting with Ben
Yeah.
at BJ, and I look at him and I said to him, he looked at the box and he says, "Oh, you got them all done? I was so late getting to you and whatever." And I said, "Well, you tell me you're going to phone me in October and you never do, you know." So what? And I'm bugging him, man. Poor Ben, eh? He went to sit on the tailgate of the truck, and the dog jumped out of the box and hit him, and he fell off the truck and broke his hip. And he's 84, eh?
Oh, whoa!
He's sitting in a wheelchair. They got him in a wheelchair there. He's seeing a specialist, I think, Tuesday or Wednesday, to see what they do, whether they just put it in place and let it heal, you know, and that's what you get. It's, you know, at 84, I guess they're taking a chance every time they touch you, you know. It's, but I mean, he's still doing it really, really well. But I'm sitting there and I look at him and I go, last bunch, I said, I'm officially caught up now. And 2 minutes into our conversation, the phone rings, and I looked at it, and some guy started talking to me, so I put the phone down, and it was Brian Lowe.
All the way
from Pro. What's this place called? BJ? No,
Get fishing.
JB's.
JB's. Sorry,
I get them confused with BJ's, JB's, whatever.
Yeah.
So I talked to him this afternoon, and he ordered 350 jigs because his one was getting low. So I'm back at it.
Sure. So buy a jig, or Jim will break your hip.
Bring it. I'll break my own. So I was telling you, I've had a few rough days. I had to use this to get around, eh?
You shared that with me, yes.
Yeah, I don't know what it was. Something happened in my knee. It was my knee got buggered up a long time ago, but it's good. I mean, I have no problems with it. There's like zero problems with it. And I thought someone stuck an ice pick in my knee, eh? And like we were talking to Jason before we went on. I had a thing happen where they x-rayed my knee to look at the arthritis. And the doctors, I said to him, "Can you see the bone chip in there?" That it was identified years ago. And he says, "I don't see the chip," but he says, "I see the spot where it came from."
Hey.
There's a little piece where it was
There's
not
a
not.
divot. Please replace your divots. Holy
Yeah,
crap.
I think that's what floated in and got me, because this did happen about probably 6, 7 years. It was just after we moved here one day. I was down by the water and I almost fell in the lake. I get out of the chair and I was standing and I was trying to pull a fish out of the slop. And it just like, because this is it. You're standing still. You're not doing anything. Like, you're not causing an injury.
Yeah.
And pow, what happened. So I've been taking some ibuprofens and that, and to get the old anti-inflammatories in there, and it feels a lot better. It was way better today. So hopefully a couple more days, and I get my butt back in the gym.
I will say, before we talk a little bit more about fishing, I do want to talk a little bit about hockey with you, because you played the game, so you can appreciate the level and skill that you're seeing. I have to say that first round of hockey was absolutely off the charts. If you're a lover of hockey, holy crap!
Yeah, I hate to say it, but I've really lost my thing for hockey. I don't. I used to watch it constantly. Like, I don't even have TSN anymore to get the games. I watch the odd bit. So, yeah, it's just, I don't know. I lost my interest in it. But from what I understand from talking to guys today, that Winnipeg game last night was just a barn burner. Because I was sitting with Tammy, and I said to her, I was watching on my phone just to see what the scores were. And I said to her, wow, 3-1, this doesn't look good, but you watch. Winnipeg will get a couple, and they'll win it in overtime. She says, I don't know. There's only like 3 minutes left. So it was 2 minutes left, and then with what was it 1.6 seconds?
1.6 seconds.
Yeah, they scored the last one, and then they went to the end of the second overtime. And every time I get up to have a tinkle during the night, I get my phone out. Look at me. Check and see that they won. Yeah.
You know what was really cool too? When Toronto did eventually beat Ottawa, there was, and I felt it. I can't say that I'm an Ottawa fan, but I was a fan of Ottawa's team on that night, simply because of how they appreciated the fans and how the fans appreciated.
There wasn't a fan left the building. The place was full right to the end.
Yep.
And I mean, when you see what that last game that was in Toronto, when it went to 3-0, the building was empty for the last 5 minutes of the game. Empty.
Yeah.
You know, and that's, I don't know, but that says that's that big corporate influence in so many, I'm sure the people that are the true fans were still there,
Yeah.
I was rattling a buddy of mine today. I said, I said, I can't figure it out. He goes, what? I said, how the Senators are gone. He said, what do you mean? They got beat 4-3, but I said, yeah, but it's 6-4 on the season for us. So we're still ahead. And he says, what do you mean? I says, well, remember, I had to keep reminding you that they beat them 3 in a row.
Was that Steve Barnett?
No.
Okay.
He's a character.
He sure is. Steve.
He pulled up beside me on the 416 the other day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I saw Steve and Don at BJ's the other day. By the way, Steve, that was a class freaking act. That little gesture that you did. I'll just leave it at that. Class freaking act.
I don't know. Wow.
What do you mean even I know things you don't know, Scotty.
Apparently. Dude, you know a lot of things I don't know. But
hey, you didn't know Ben's hip was broken. You didn't know
Brock gets bigger and bigger, man. I tell you, I got to go back to school. Wow.
You didn't know I'm slowly losing my mind. Catch it up to Tammy.
Oh, wow.
She's downstairs talking with the quilting ladies.
All right, and that's the end of our show.
Come out of here.
This being the transition season, Jim, especially for us here, it's a little bit different over in the western provinces and maybe out east. Maybe they're a little bit further ahead, a little bit further behind, depending on their climate. But this is the true transition period, and we are starting to see fish spawn if they haven't already. And now we're getting into what is going to be, I hope, an epic softwater season. And it's starting to show with the signs of what folks are catching, the quantity, the quality of what folks are catching. The perch festival that went up in Aurelia, there was a number of decent perch caught up there. I don't know what the grand total was, but it looked like a promising catch. And we're seeing it on, again, Lake Erie, Detroit River. Like, it's just it's mind-boggling how many
The
fish
St.
are
Lawrence
being.
River here, it's just some of the guys that have been out there, it's just crazy. And it's really funny to see guys fishing for largemouths
Yeah.
in this season, not the smallmouths, which is what it was all the talk was about,
Yeah.
I was talking to a guy the other day who was across on the American side, and between him and his buddy, they caught 71 largemouths in the day. And people have no concept. If you bring a clicker in a boat and you use it, 71 fish is a lot of fish.
Sure is.
25 is a lot.
Sure is. Yep.
And
It sure
when you
is.
see, we got 71 fish between them, and they fished from, he said they launched the boat at 9 and they were back out at 3:15, so 6 hours. So they were averaging what, 10, 11 fish an hour. And
The
I said, where were they in? He said they're in 6, 7 feet, close to current edges, right where I left them in the green weed last fall. He said, I think a lot of them must winter there.
is that right? Hey, wow.
Yeah, like he said, these fish were a long way from like spawning or anything. The water was, I think he said 42. But yeah, he said they were just every fish came on a jig.
Is that
Every
right?
fish came on a jig. That's all he used. Yep, yep.
Some of the totals from the
Yeah, it was amazing.
Kiwanis Walleye Derby out in Picton was also impressive. I believe
Yeah, that's pretty,
12.26.
standard, eh? Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. So it always seems to be around there, right? That they win.
12.26.
One of the guys, yeah, that's a good fish. One of the guys I know came second in the pike. Eric there. He came second. He was pretty happy. I had a guy send me a picture of a pike he caught, and he's one of those guys that if you tell him you caught a 13-pound, 7-ounce walleye, he'd have a 13-10 like a week later. You know what I'm saying?
I know a few guys like that. Yes.
He told me that he let a 49-inch pike go, and I said, "Really?" I said, "Well, that would probably be like one of, if not the biggest pike ever, to swim in the Bay of Quinte, that he should wade it in." I said, "You sure it wasn't a muskie?" No, it had white dots on it. I know, I said 49 inches. I said, "Do you realize how big that is?"
Yeah.
49-inch pike. That's going to be like the biggest pike caught in Canada this year. You know what I'm saying? It is. I mean, I think the last place that has pike like that are if you get up into the Mackenzie River and up that way, some of the little tributaries up in the Yukon and that.
Yeah.
There's still, some individual giant fish up there.
Even northern Saskatchewan, I have to say, Northwest Territories, right there on that border. My goat, Tasman, the quality of pike, the size of pike that you're pulling out of that fishery is absolutely incredible. Yeah. They're all healthy. They all have weight. They all have backs, shoulders, whatever you want to call it. But Steve, it corrects me. It was not 12.26. It was 12.27 that took the Kiwanis opener this past weekend, and it was a 14.1 pound pike that took the pike division. Jim, I have to ask too, and I don't know if they've ever run this before like this where they have different species. Typically, I always thought it was strictly a walleye tournament.
Oh, it's always been like that, or as far as I can remember.
So they've included pike in it as well?
Oh, for years, yeah, because it's a long time ago. Dave Chong won the boat one year.
Gotcha.
His buddy said, "Why don't we go fish that?" He says, "I'm not really like fishing for walleyes. It's not what I do." He said, "Well, let's go fish for pike." So they tied on some bigger lures, and they picked a bay on the map. They looked at it, what they thought was the biggest spawning bay available, and they won the boat.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And I do know there are big pike out there. Ed he stepped up a 46er. He took by Green Island a few years ago. So there are some behemoths out there. There's no doubt about it. And our good friend George.
Between 46 and 49, though.
Big difference. Big difference. Like girth alone, there's a big difference. 100%. Smallmouth were in 6 feet shallower, but all they wanted was a jerk bait. Is a jerk bait really that this time of year? That's a go-to this time of year?
Yeah.
Wow. Interesting stuff. Well, what have you got upcoming this week, Jim?
I got a couple of appointments and things to go to. So for some reason, my driver's license, they called me up and said to me, well, or they didn't call me, they sent me a note and said, we notice here on your driver's license that you're diabetic. So we need to send you for an assessment to make sure you're fit to drive. Like, did they just pick me out of the blue? It's going to cost me $800 and 3 hours of my life. Just out of the blue. I said to the guy at the place when I booked the appointment, I said, like, what would be the reason for this? You know, like, I haven't been stopped by a cop because I was driving wildly down the street or, whatever else. And he says to me, I hear this all the time. They just randomly pick people and.
Wait a minute, Jim. He pulled you over?
No, that's what I'm saying. It's not like I got pulled over.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. No. This was just a letter came in the mail.
Interesting.
Yes, sitting right there on my desk. Right there.
I can understand vision. They want to get your vision checked, but I didn't realize they did that for diet. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, just out of the blue. And I mean, I have no problems driving whatsoever. So it's just, and it says if you don't pass the assessment, then you may have to take an actual physical driving test. So I said, well, why don't they just have me pull up to the door? The guy can jump in. I'll drive him around the block a couple of times. And he can say, oh, you're okay. I asked Lewis today when we went to the dump and a couple of other places. He went threw a whole bunch of garbage in the bins for me, so I didn't have to hop out without my knee bugging me. Yeah. And then we went to Hortons for a coffee. And I said to him, would you ever feel scared with me because I'm getting older now driving? He looked at me and said, are you crazy?
No. I've driven with you enough, Jim. No, under no circumstance.
I mean, I could see again,
if they showed up to your door and did what you had suggested, would they be able to collect the $800? Probably not, right? So it's money.
That goes to an independent thing. It's not the government that gets the money.
Oh, that makes even less sense.
They spun the wheel like on Price is Right, and Big Jim came up,
Wow.
We're gonna beat up Drew Carey.
Wow. Well, I don't mean to laugh because I can't imagine that'll bring a certain level of anxiety, not to mention the fee associated with it. $800 is not something you can sneeze at.
I know. Like that's wow. Like ridiculous. Eh? It's a chunk of coin, but it's what it is. We get it done. But I got that, and Tammy has a couple of appointments, and we got the paper all done. Are they anti-Shimano? They better not be. Send them to your house next, George. I'll send the Shimano ninjas there.
There you go.
Yeah, I got that, and I got I'm going to pick up the boat there. They got it rigged, so I got to get the boat down here. The water's really high though; it's like kind of up on the grass. I was going to go down and fish there the other night, and I drove down with the truck, and I realized like, whoa, the water, like the steel rim on the top, you can't see any of that, eh?
Wow, it's that high.
Yeah, and it's getting a little higher. Like every week, it gets like half an inch higher, which brings it further up the lawn.
Yeah. Well, as I said, we've got more rain coming tonight and tomorrow.
Yeah, here too. Just getting cloudy here now.
Yeah, likewise. It's getting dark here as well.
Yeah.
Well, Jim, as always, I'm so glad that we were able to take the week off and sort of get a much needed rest. But just the same, it's great to have you back, and we look forward to many more Mondays with you, my friend.
Always, buddy. Hope everybody's safe out there, and I hope you're all catching lots of fish.
Amen. We are going to have Lawrence Gunther come up right after a word from our sponsor. You have a great week, Jim. We'll talk soon.
Be good now.
Peace. There he is, Lawrence Gunther with us. How you doing, Lawrence?
I'm doing well, man. I'm doing well.
Always a pleasure to have you. And of course, we did take a week off, which was nice. It was good to cool the jets and push the reset button for a week. But we're going to hit the ground running because there is a lot happening, a lot to talk about. But at the outset, as you said, as you saw and heard, Lawrence, we shared a video that I think really depicts what our community is all about and what our community is trying to personify. But more so than that, what I think our community needs to get back to the fun, the excitement, the joy, the passion. With everything that has happened in the last 2-3 weeks, we could sit here and talk all day about that, but that's not about fishing. We'll leave that where it's meant to be, and the craziness just keeps getting worse and worse. But regardless, if we stay focused, if we stay centered, and we think about fishing, great things can happen.
I agree, buddy. I agree. I mean, I needed a dose of fishing myself, and it came in the form of the opener, the walleye season opener on the St. Lawrence River, 12 a.m. Saturday morning.
You were out?
Oh yeah. I
for
wasn't one of the
you.
12 a.m. crowd. I was picked up at 2:30 and went down there. We were in the water fishing by 4:30, and we did okay. A lot of the guys said once it lightens up, the fish bite drops off. But it was cloudy, it was misty, there was a little bit of rain coming down all morning. So it never really, it got lighter, I guess, but the sun never broke out. So we were catching fish right up until 10 o'clock. So we were happy, and big ones too, like everything over 20 inches. Everything we caught was over 20 inches.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Nice.
Any signs of them still spawning, the ones that you were catching?
We didn't really hang on to them that long to see if there was eggs in there or not. So, my buddy was doing all the releasing, him and his 9-year-old son who came with us. God bless that little tiger, man. He's got 3 boys, but this one likes to get out in the boat and likes to be part of that whole fishing. Doesn't matter. Get up at 2 a.m. He's up for it. And just fantastic. So, but yeah, I'm told none of them have spawned yet. None of
they haven't spawned yet.
No.
So it's behind. Okay. Well, actually not behind. I shouldn't say it's behind. It's probably right on time, based on other years. And, I would say the past decade average, they're probably spawning right when they should be.
Yeah. The water was cold, right? It was in the 40s. So, they were still deep, but they were starting to come up. Like they were into 20, 30 feet when we were fishing for them. So we didn't fish any deeper than 30 feet for sure. And we were catching most of our fish at around 20 feet. So we were happy to let some go. And another buddy of mine, he was out in another boat. They were there at midnight. They caught 22. 2 were 28 inches.
Wow.
So they're nice walleye in the St. Lawrence River. Yeah.
Great
nice.
eating size.
Yeah. But
Did you take any home? Did you take any home with you?
No, we let 2 go and we kept 2. We figured two of the fish that size, that's a meal for each of us or each of our families. So we're good.
That's awesome. And at the end of the day too, it's not that we want to discourage folks from eating fish, because, that's all part of the process. It's all part of our tradition and our heritage. But keep in mind, catch and release also works too. And if you are catching fish that have yet to spawn, I would be so thankful to know that our CFNers are throwing back those females that are dripping eggs. This is the time. And we see it in other areas like Lake Erie, Detroit River. Typically, a lot of those big fish, for the most part, you do see the odd big hen that's just chock full of eggs, but there seems to be a contentious effort for those to actually release those egg wagons. So big shout out to, if you are one of those, thank you so much, because you're doing a phenomenal job for your fishery.
I think most of the fishers, and I talked to them at the boat launch, most of them are letting the fish go. It was interesting though, everyone, like 5 years ago, everyone was, everyone's more or less pulling bottom bouncers and spinner harness rigs and stuff. And then, the whole spot lock phenomena caught on with the walleye anglers. And now everyone's got spot lock.
Yep.
Except for one guy in a 14-foot aluminum boat, an older gentleman fishing on his own with a 9.9 motor and a chain, a stringer, no sonar, no trolling motor. And he's got, he's doing good. He's doing good.
Wow.
He
Was he back trolling in the current?
he was just drifting. He was just drifting in some of the back eddies
Yeah.
and picking up fish, just with his jigs and stuff. So, good for him.
I had someone tell me that it's this time of year that they really use the worm harness. Is that a presentation that you used this early in the season?
I was, yeah, just a single blade and a worm harness, and for sure, I find it does well. And but a lot of the guys, they'll be on their trolling motor, and they'll be if you're really good with your trolling motor, and you've got jigs that weigh 1 ounce. You need 1 ounce jigs, and you control your back drift. You're drifting backwards with your trolling motor facing forward upriver, and you're drifting backwards downstream, and you're controlling your speed so that you can just keep your line at a 45-degree angle, no more, and not directly below the boat, but at a 45-degree angle, and just sort of popping it off the bottom, 6 inches. Just tap, tap. But making sure you're right there within 6 inches of the bottom. And if you can control your boat like that, you'll do well. You'll cover good territory. You'll get, you'll do well. You don't need to use worms and bottom harnesses. You can just get by with plastics and heavy jigs.
See, and that's typically like, before live forward facing sonar and live sonar that we have the privilege of using nowadays. That's how we found them back in the day. We would troll, bottom bounce, whatever it was the presentation, until you got into a couple good hits.
Mm-hmm.
You figured you were on top of a school, and that's when you would pull out different other presentations, and you'd either jig for them or you would try and spot lock, anchor, whatever, and target them that way. And you think about it, like we're not that far removed from forward facing sonar. Obviously, there's a huge difference and a huge step forward. But if you think about it, forward-facing sonar, it makes it more efficient. What it is that we're trying to do.
Yeah, and I agree. I just think with the walleye so close to the bottom, right? None of these fish are suspended; they're all right on the bottom. So you got, like I say, you got to pick one up. And the tactic everyone uses on the St. Lawrence River is look for the landing net waving around in the boat. And then everyone's surrounded.
Well, that goes without saying. If the Bealers were on here tonight, they'd tell you that's why they keep switching the boat every year, just so that folks can't get a beat on them when they're on the river. But it's so true that when it comes to that, we are animals of what do they call that? When you do things over and over and over again, we are
creatures of habit.
Creatures of habit. Thank you. Yeah. And typically when you see a net waving around, it's like a sonar, like a bell goes off, and everybody, you're so right. Obviously, with the week off, you were busy with a whole bunch of things. You were just at a big presentation that Jason's wife was at as well. You're going to be sharing a little bit of that information in upcoming podcasts and the newsletter. Anything else, like any big takeaways that you heard or were presented at that conference?
Well, this conference is put on by Watersheds Canada. They're out of Perth, Ontario. And the new executive director, Robert Pye, he was the communications director for 20 years with the Ontario Federation of Anglers and Hunters. And now he's the executive director at Watersheds Canada. When I started interviewing people at Watersheds Canada for the podcast 10 years ago, they were all about restoring the shorelines with native plantings, right? And they were working on a program, Love Your Lakes program, established by the Canadian Wildlife Federation, that would sort of photograph your shore and then present you with the photographs and give you a little plan if you're interested on how to make it more, how to naturalize it more. And they've been working on that. And I was bugging them. I said, why does it have to end at the shore? I said, why can't you rewild the wetlands too? What the aquatic vegetation, the fish habitat? And so now they're really into the fish habitat. And I heard an amazing statistic. Watersheds Canada has now just completed 58 fish habitat restorations, and that could be spawning beds. They did some over the winter where they bring out tons of gravel and spread it out on the ice, and then wait, when the ice melts, drops down, and you got a walleye spawning bed there. They do stick bundles, and so they're 58 projects now completed in terms of fish habitat. So I think that's fantastic, and I think they realize too that this is a real interest to the cottage associations, right? All cottage associations want to have nice, lively, healthy fisheries on their lakes to fish with their children, their grandchildren. Yeah. And if they can invest in some fish habitat restoration, they're in for it. So Watersheds Canada is really gearing up on the fish habitat. So fish and fishing, whereas before, I remember the past executive director said, Lawrence, we love what Bluefish Canada is doing. We'd love to partner with you guys. But if we did, we would lose some of our sponsors because you guys, you're about fishing, right? And some of their sponsors are against fishing. Yeah. And that's still the case with many environmental organizations. But a lot of other environmental organizations see reality. And the reality is you've got people who have cottages, who are on shoreline properties, who care about the quality of fishing, and want to make sure the fish in their lake have suitable habitat for spawning, and understand that whole process of spawning, and are now interested in implementing sanctuaries. Little no-go zones. That's where the fish spawn. You don't fish there for these many weeks. And we heard a presentation from Carleton University talking about that, and some of the sanctuaries they've opened up on Charleston Lake and Opionga Lake this year as a trial, and how that's going. And they've got some really solid data that shows that by establishing a no-go fishing zone in some of these very, very special spots on a lake. So when I'm talking, like, this is where the bass spawn, but you can't fish there for anything. Mm-hmm. It's just a no fish zone for 5 weeks.
Right.
And no pike, nothing. And that if you do that, the population of the bass will quadruple because you're not taking the big fish off the nests. The big fish aren't replaced by small fish that are overstressed trying to do nesting activity. And the small fish are just rearing small broods and smaller fish. So these larger first to breed in the season fish, they need to be left alone so they can guard their nests. And if you pull them off and you let them go later and they swim back, if they go back and if as much as 30% of the eggs are missing or the fry are missing, they just give up and leave. They don't care anymore. So that was an interesting presentation. Heard some presentations on trees. Hey, Great Lakes Fishery Commission had an exhibit there, and they presented. And I gotta love those Great Lakes Fishery Commission people. They were talking about the delay of lampricide during COVID from 2020 and 2021. They lost about 25% of their lampricide application over those 2 years because of COVID. 25% reduction. By 2023, they noticed that the lamprey population in the Great Lakes went up 300%. And they said if they hadn't started back in 2023 and 24 with the lampricide, if they had let it go for 4 years with no lampricide, the fish population in the Great Lakes would have been decimated again. The lamprey would have returned in full force, and they would have, really laid a beating to the fish population of the Great Lakes. The earliest introduction of sea lamprey was in around 1920. I've heard as early as 1880, but they say 1920 was when they were spotted in Lake Ontario. They made it through the rest of the Great Lakes. And by the 1980s, the Great Lakes there was no real good fishing left anywhere in the Great Lakes by the 1920s. And sea lamprey love cold water. So even Lake Superior was seriously impacted, lake trout populations, salmon populations. It was all white fish. It was all just laid waste. And it wasn't until they discovered lampricide in the 1970s and started rolling it out in the early 1970s, late 1960s, I believe. And now they've knocked back the lamprey population by 90%, and they can hold it at 90%, but it costs them about $20 million a year to do it. Anyways, they had a tank on their exhibit table with two 18-inch lamprey in the tank, and if you let the lamprey bite you, you got a nice little coin. So I was sitting with Patrick Walsh from Outdoor Canada magazine, and he showed me his coin. I said, "Where'd you get that?" He told me. So I went over there and got bit, but I'm a little squeamish. So it bit, and I pulled my hand away. I didn't let it hold on for long. And then I was talking to a lovely young lady at another booth, and I was telling her about it. And she goes over there, she gets bit. She's got a thing hanging from her hand for about 15 seconds.
Dear Lord.
And then it was, but a few people did it. A few people took the challenge, right? But when they open up their mouth and they latch on, man, it stings. It stings right away.
Well, I can't. Yeah, it's not something that I would want to do. You can keep your coin. I will say I'd rather my finger be intact.
Yeah.
But
the finger, it's the whole palm of your hand. It's the whole it's the whole meat of your thumb. They said they did it on Parliament Hill a few times. They had the exhibit up there, and at the end of a big day, and some of the members of Parliament and senators would be a little bit drunk because it was a celebration on the Hill. Some of them wanted to be pictured with a lamprey stuck to their forehead or their cheek, and guaranteed, if you get a lamprey bite on your forehead or on your cheek, you're bleeding. You're bleeding.
Yeah.
There's no getting away. Yeah. It's thin skin. You got thin skin on your cheek 100%. And your forehead. It's instant. You're bleeding.
Well, yeah. And then to go and pull it off, if you don't have, a handful of salt or whatever it is.
Just rip it off. Yeah. Just rip it off. Yeah.
But to get back to the number, 300%, up 300%.
100%. Yeah. You talk to the charter guys out there, and they told you, like in 2023, 2024, every salmon had lamprey marks or lamprey.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Unreal.
Yeah.
George shared some. Yeah, it's true. Most creel surveys show that most cottagers are not the main angling group on the lake. And I would have to say one that comes to mind, which to me is just staggering, is the Lake Muskoka, Lake St. Joe, Rosso. It's amazing to see how few anglers that have cottages on those lakes actually fish. So to George's point, I'm not the least bit surprised. And Muskoka is definitely one end of the spectrum, because most of the anglers that go up there and fish are from the city. But very cool. Steve is asking a question. We've seen an extremely larger than normal Lake Ontario alewife die off recently.
Yeah.
Do you have anything to add? Is there any information on that?
The alewife population, it went down, I'm told, over the last 5 years, and people were worried. But some of the people said it's still quite sufficient. And the alewife population, those alewife were taking mercury out of the system too, right? And they said that the mercury levels in Lake Ontario were dropping. And then when the alewife population sort of hit bottom, the mercury levels stopped going down in the lake. But they said there's still fairly good populations out there. It's just not the way it was. 5 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, I think it was hitting bottom, but then it sort of bounced back. And you looked like last summer, the salmon fishing was quite extraordinary on Lake Ontario. Yes. So I think it's kind of balanced itself. But what do I know? Jason would know better.
Well, we will find out in the coming years. As George will say, you will have to wait for the annual prey fish survey to see if the die-off has had an impact, or perhaps have the salmon just gorged themselves to the point where they're endangering the alewife population. But yeah, I didn't know about the die-off. I'm learning about that just now. Is it just Lake Ontario, Steve, or was this elsewhere? We'll have to wait for his answer. But
yeah, I think the alewife population definitely dropped off on Michigan, right? So that's why there's the salmon population on Lake Michigan tanked, and charter captains are having to go to for lake trout fishing now.
Yeah,
and lake trout, on Michigan, it's 4, 5, 6 pounders. So it's not the drag ripping 25-pound Chinook like it used to be. So they're a little unhappy about that. But
it's been like that for a little while.
Yeah, 10 years.
Yeah,
10
years. That happened a few years back, and is it showing signs of correcting itself, or?
I don't think it's going to bounce back because the nutrient level that the alewife require has been reduced on Michigan and Huron, and so it's not conducive to alewife, fast growing alewife. It's more conducive to Cisco, slower growing Cisco, which are the native species in the Great Lakes. Alewife isn't invasive, right?
Yeah.
But alewife are super fast growing. They populate like crazy, and they serve as salmon that are super fast growing. 5 years and they're out. Boom. 5 years they go from 0 to 25 pounds, 30 pounds, 40 pounds. So they need a huge food source, and the alewife was it. It's just as fast growing. But you take away one, you lose the other.
Yeah, and really it goes hand in hand. Getting back to watersheds, when we were talking about that, Steve put up the link for watersheds. Unfortunately, a lot of the limelight was robbed when we were doing the Atlantic salmon rehabilitation at the time. And I know we've talked about this at great length. The thing that was missed in all that, yes, there were not many returns of Atlantic salmon, but the work that watersheds, Trout Unlimited, there's CVC, there's a whole bunch of conservation groups and special interest groups that did an awful lot of work during that campaign that benefited other fish.
Oh yeah.
So when we hear of habitat rehabilitation, it's not species specific. It benefits so many others, like the brown trout. The populations and the amount that would run up some of our tributaries have increased since that rehabilitation because it dropped the water temperatures. We were able to get more of a shadow, less sunlight penetrating the water. So again, we can't always evaluate things for face value. We have to look a little bit deeper. And during that initiative and that campaign, some great things were done to the shorelines of a lot of our tributaries.
Oh yeah, like the salmon in Lake Ontario, they say well over half of the salmon now are self-producing, right? They're spawning successfully.
And again, I don't know if that was the intent, if that's just what came of it. But at the end of the day, there's something to be said when you stock fish. Eventually, they're going to figure it out. The birds and the bees,
and people figured it out. People took the little dams down. All those little abandoned dams came down, right? And habitat, like the shorelines were solidified, so they stopped, dumping sediment into the river and clogging up the spawning beds with sediment.
Right.
So lots of great work from a lot of people. We got a lot more work to do. There's still a ton of dams, 100%. But it's progress for sure. Yeah,
How are the water levels out there right now?
It's not bad. We've never had the big spike here in Ottawa, like on the Ottawa River and the Rideau River. The Rideau River changes direction somewhere in the big Rideau. Some of it flows towards Lake Ontario and some flows towards the Ottawa River. That's, at some point it flows in both directions. And it's kind of weird that way, but we never had any floods so far. Knock on wood. We're just into May, so I've been around this town a while now, and just because you're out of April doesn't mean you're in the clear. It can all turn around pretty fast in May. 2 or 3 weeks of heavy rain in May, and it can all go boom.
Well, if there's anything that we have certainly become accustomed to is the change in weather. We went from 30-degree weather, I think, the one day to minus 3-degree weather the next, or at least that's what it felt like. We have seen incredible amounts of rain dumped down in the Great Lakes area, and we're starting to see more of it fall tonight and tomorrow. So to your point, it is April showers bring May flowers, but now we're into May, and I guess, are we going to have a drought, or are we going to start to see a spike in temperatures? What's next? But we will all sit and see it together.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just right now, it looks like it's going to be a fairly dry spring. We had the snow melted slowly. The ice just came off in the last few weeks. And so it was a very slow spring, very slow start to the season. The panfish haven't started to spawn yet in the lakes around here. That still hasn't happened.
Yeah.
So everything's a little bit late, maybe a week or two late this year in Eastern Ontario.
True enough. Not to touch too much on it, but I think it was something that we shared during our segments, some of the lead up to the election and some of the initiatives and proposals that were put forth by the Liberals to increase quotas, open up fisheries that weren't historically open, expand the calendar of being able to catch a certain species. They've done some great things to improve the livelihoods of the commercial fishermen on the East Coast. And I would have to say it benefited them, because what was typically NDP became a sea of red out there. And you wonder if this had a lot to do with it.
There was a bunch of things going on. If you look, just a bunch of things going on. But yeah, if you want to check out the Bluefish news that came out last week, I wrote an article about comparing Canada versus the United States and our commercial fishery, science-based, precautionary-based practices to rebuild fish stocks. And I came to the conclusion that some of these openings, like in Canada's case, expanding the cod fishery, starting up the redfish fishery in the Gulf of St. Lawrence, quadrupling the striped bass take by some First Nations commercial fisheries around the Miramichi, and then that happened well over 6 months before the snap election. And then if you look in the United States, they just took Atlantic mackerel off the rebuild list and said they've been fully restored, and they actually gave credit to what Canada did, the actions Canada took to rebuild our Atlantic mackerel populations. And they said because of that, they were able to open up the Atlantic mackerel fishery off the east coast of the United States earlier, just this past April, last September in 2024. So, there's been, you could say, is it politically motivated? I don't know. I mean, I would hope that it is science-based, and they're using the precautionary principle, and they're trying to give coastal communities some breathing room to, you look at the protests from the commercial fishers on the East Coast, right? When, there was some snow crab cutbacks, there was huge protests, but the government, held the line and said, you know what, it's not a good time. We have to cut back right now, and so the population can rebuild. So, we'll get used to hearing that, and it'll become less political, but I think there's room for more transparency. And what I was concluding in my article is that, in the United States, they have 8 roundtables that govern the commercial and recreational fishing on the coasts around the United States, where you have the stakeholders, the scientists, the government representatives, the commercial recreational fishing interests all sitting around a table. All the information is shared, and then they say, okay, this is what we're thinking. How are we going to do this? Who's taking the hit? Who's going to let's divvy up the pain so that we can share the gain later on. And they work hard, and they do it. We're missing that sort of round table. You see a few examples of that on the West Coast, not many. And where the government just negotiates. They negotiate with this group and then that group and then the other group, but no one really knows what happened in each negotiation. Everyone's thinking, oh, they got favored and we got screwed over. And I think if there was more transparency and more people involved in that decision making, it would make it less political, right? And I think we need to get there.
Well, and I think there's been a lot of inroads, a lot of steps in the right direction to get there. When you see it seems as if there's a real trend towards the MNR wanting, citizen science to be a huge aspect and part of their findings and everyday tasks. They're reaching out with surveys. They want you to become part of stakeholder meetings and
the FM things, FM. Yeah.
So it seems as if that transparency they're trying to foster, in my eyes anyway. I love the approach that we're taking, because closing doors and putting in earplugs is not going to solve anything. We have to embrace and agree on what the problem is first before we can start fixing it. But again, what the MNR has been doing lately, I really appreciate, because they want to hear from us. They want our involvement. So hopefully, to your point, that trend continues.
It can continue, but even look, we have the commercial fishery on the Great Lakes that's decided between the provinces and the states who gets what share of the perch and the walleye and whitefish and so on. And then we have the recreational fishing interests, and they negotiate with and meet with the government representatives in Ontario. And then they have some negotiations or something going on with First Nations communities. Not sure what that looks like, or what that includes, or how that works. No one really is, unless you're part of that.
Yeah.
But it's three different machines working on 3 different planets, right? And
100%.
it'd be interesting if that got together. We could work together.
Very true. Not to rush you by any means, do you have any news items that you wanted to share with us?
Well, in the news last weekend, if you follow the Bluefish Radio Show podcast, we had a fantastic interview with the president and vice president of the British Columbia Recreational Fishing Association. And that podcast is out. And, they're just frustrated. We talked about this a lot, about transparency, about decision making. So here's 3 articles. It's in the news. The first one is, the government of Canada introduces new protections for the southern resident killer whales that are down now to number 73. I think when I started paying interest to this, it was around 98 was the population of the southern residents killer whales. Now it's down to 73. You hear about some births this spring and some deaths already and so on. And so more restrictions on, sightseeing, whale watching, motorboats, fishing, the whole gamut. And then you look at the Department of the British University of British Columbia and the Pacific Salmon Foundation, very prestigious organizations in their own right, both of them, and others, did research with over 1,500 salmon that they tagged with the help of recreational anglers and released, and then they tracked them for 10 days.
Yep.
And they determined that if the fish were caught and released, caught on small hooks, single hooks, and released quickly and not exposed to air, the survival rate was incredibly high. And so they say, so this recreational fishing, catch and release recreational fishing proves that it works. Some people were saying there's a 50% kill rate with catch and release salmon fishing on the West Coast. This proves that that's not the case. So if you do it properly, it's almost it's less than 1%. It's around 1% is the kill rate for catch and release fishing. And then there's a third study by a DFO where they looked at the amount of fishing, the interceptions of salmon in the spring salmon fishery, recreational fishery, and how many salmon were then let go, and then they were tracked with tags, and how many of those salmon were part of specific endangered Chinook and coho populations, right? And what the Fraser, some of the other where the other salmon species, subspecies are at risk. And they said on the salmon runs where the fishing took place, where they said, okay, we know they're not going through here at this time of year, and the recreational fishing was allowed to take place, and these fish were tagged and released, and that very few, if any, were fish that ended up into these sort of very problematic runs of salmon, that they were caught from runs of salmon that were in abundance. So there's you got the reduction of fishing activity by the government. You've got scientists saying, we're not killing the fish off in numbers that people say we are. And you've got DFO scientists themselves saying if we have a targeted fishery at certain times of the year, and it's you're not putting at risk population recovery of certain species that are in trouble, that you can do it in a way that's sustainable. So there's a lot of evidence flying around, and a lot of science that shows that you don't have to decimate a recreational fishing on the west coast of Canada to preserve southern killer whales or to rebuild salmon stocks at risk. That it can be managed, that there's ways of doing it, that if you do a selective marked fishery, catch and a fishery and release the unmarked fish, with there's all sorts of solutions, and the anglers are just saying, hey, why aren't we adopting these solutions? Like, there's proof we should be doing that.
No, makes total sense. Well, as I said, Lawrence, I can't believe how fast our time flies here. It's unreal. We've been at this already half an hour.
Oh boy,
unbelievable, dude! I can't thank you enough. Thanks again for taking the week off with us. And getting refueled, recharged, and we look forward to seeing you many more Mondays going forward. So thanks again for all your time. Really appreciate it, Lawrence.
Sounds good, buddy. Have a good one.
You as well. Go Leafs, go. Can you say it?
Oh, no. I live in Toronto, but I'm a Senators fan.
I figured as much. Right on, dude. Well, you take care. You have yourselves a great night, and we'll see you next Monday, my friend.
All right.
We got Jay Barnucz coming up right after a word from his sponsor.
Want to know the difference between power bait and other soft plastics? Ask the fish. Berkeley scientists have thousands of flavors tested on thousands of fish. Natural, man-made. Every bait that's ever hit the water. No matter the shape, size, or color, power bait is the only one that is scientifically proven. Fish bite and will not let go.
Oh boy, Jay's on the road again.
On the road again, dude. Now it's dark in here now. It's like I know. Oh well, tis the season, man.
It is. Yeah. It's actually nice. I have to admit, it's nice to see the sun up, in the morning when we're off to work and whatever. Like, it's so dreary getting up in the wintertime when it's still dark out. It's beautiful seeing the sun.
I agree, because you know what? For weeks, because I'm up early pretty much every day, and so you kind of used to just waking up in the dark, and I wasn't getting to work until the sun was just like a hint. I mean, like a month ago, it seemed like the sun. You could just see at my office, Lake Ontario, right there. Just a little bit of sunlight. Now, on a weekend, I don't know about you, but so on a weekend, I don't set the alarm. Now I still wake up.
Yep.
But now I wake up, and it's like 6:15, and there's light coming in the window. And for a minute, your heart jumps, and you're like, "Am I late for work?" Because it's like you think it's like your body still thinks it's like 7:30, but it's actually what first light's about 5:45 now. I think it's nice. I like this time of year.
It is that time of year, and I know a lot of the work that you're doing currently right now. It's on the hush, on the down low, hush. So we won't ask or poke too much, but I will say when it is time to share, it's pretty cool what you're doing. And again, Jay, I can't thank you enough on behalf of all of us here at CFN, the work that you continue to do to improve our fisheries.
Thanks, man. Yeah, it's just research. So until the findings are released, we don't want to talk about it. But honestly, it's just doing some cool stuff with some good people and some long days, man. Like today, Mondays right now. I look forward to Mondays on this project because Mondays are like our travel and our setup day.
Yeah.
And then we hit the ground hard for 4 days. Like I think Friday, I didn't get home till pushing 8:00 Friday night. And when that happens on a weekend, I don't know about you, but for me with this kind of work, the weekend just kind of next thing you know, it's Saturday, next thing you know, it's Sunday, and next thing you know, you're back at the grind. So with this kind of a job, you lose all that time in the evenings to do stuff, like whether it's prep fishing gear or whether it's to spend time with family. And so I pack it all into that weekend. Right. So, I didn't do any fishing this past weekend. I probably could have, but I'm looking forward to, we got a Ontario Kayak Bass Trail tournament on the May long weekend. So dude, that's in less than 2 weeks. That's like 10 days. Right. So I kind of thought to myself, you know what, I'm going to just plan for that weekend and put all my eggs in that basket and make the most of it. So I got some yard work blisters, getting things just so I can leave, so I can get everything out of the way. And of course, next weekend's Mother's Day. So
Amen.
You don't want to be doing honeydew lists on Mother's Day. That doesn't, even though those honeydew lists are for mom, it's not usually appreciated to do those on Mother's Day. Would you agree, Scottie?
I have been told the same thing. Yes. Whether I agree or not, I have been told the exact same thing.
So,
Well, I have
so
to envy you though, Jay. Between the two of us, you've managed to get out and enjoy a little bit of trout season, and I think that's a great shot. Beautiful.
I have to tell the story about this fish. So, and if Trevor's listening, he'll be a little annoyed with me, but I'll tell the story anyways. So we went trout fishing with our friends Reese and Geza, and this is on their farm in Norfolk. Like, we're blessed to have such a great spot to go for trout opener, and it's not just the fishing; it's also just friends, spending time with friends, and they're like our family. So there's a lot of it's scuttlebutt, man. It's fishing and telling lies and all these kinds of things, and of course, playoff hockey.
Yep.
It's always watching hockey in the barn after the day of fishing. So it's just a great day. Anyways, on Wednesday or Thursday. So we've had a lot of cold weather, even in the Southwest here, but a lot of the drop back fish have already dropped back. The Erie tribs, they drop back. I know that the Lake Ontario tribs will hold fish for a while. And usually we're used to these fish all being gone, but this too. We've had some cooler temps, but we haven't had a lot of rain. Like, we had a bunch of rain maybe 6 weeks ago, 5 weeks ago. And the last month, we haven't had a lot of rain. It's just been kind of actually a little bit below normal water levels. And anyways, so Geza, the owner of the property here, he sent me pictures of some drop back steelhead hanging around a couple log jams. Now, and Geza, he's a great friend, and I love fishing with him and his son Reese. And he's not fanatic like Trevor and I. This is your classic buddy angler. Your good buddy who likes to fish, and you want to spend time with Geza. And I think everyone on this call knows people like that. They're not fanatical. They just love fishing, and they just love sort of that camaraderie of it. Anyway, so he sent me this video, and it's like, I zoom in on the video. Oh yeah, I can see tails all by the log jams. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh, interesting. So there weren't a lot of dropbacks around, but there was a couple of like groups of them. And anyways, the long story short is the boys went upriver, and I went to that spot, and they couldn't see those dropbacks. I didn't see them right away either. And then right at the back of the log, I saw like a tail flash, and I threw. And I'll actually look it up, and I'll share it in the chat. Trevor did a YouTube video where you can watch me land this fish, and Trevor's got a YouTube channel now. So this is first heard YouTube channel. He launched it. Anyways, it was literally my first cast of the season, and it was a 29-inch rainbow. So, and now I'll be honest. You ever put new line on your reel, Scottie? Like,
yes.
So I put some fresh fire line on there, and the first couple casts, it only went about 8 feet to just kind of getting the line out. And then I kind of stripped some line off and I just couldn't quite get it right. And I made one pitch to the back of the log, and the cast is all on the video. And that big male just came out and just crushed that little jerk bait. It's a little, I was talking about them last week, the little Berkeley size 5. And it's a brown trout color, great little lure. Anyways, a little hit stick, and you can hear me in the video yelling, "Trevor, get over here. Like, come on." And he came running. And, got the picture. And so we caught some fish that day. Like, there was lots of browns, not a lot of dropbacks, but that was one of the few fish that we landed, was that big dropback. So
very,
very cool. Yeah.
As we mentioned before, it is that time of season, and of course the walleye are in thick, depending on where you are. Again, I love to see, whether they're CFNers or just anglers at large, releasing these big egg wagons. If they are spilling out eggs, I love seeing them go back in almost immediately. But, when you start to see runs like this, and we've talked about it, Jay, I'd like to say that, you and I agree, we're on par to where we should be this time of year. It's unfortunate that it may not align for folks like Lawrence, who are on, the St. Lawrence, the Ottawa, whatever, that unfortunately it's not conducive, that the spawn it's not even happened yet, or perhaps it hasn't happened or won't happen for a couple weeks yet. But regardless, at the end of the day, these fish are spawning, and we have to be conscious of what fish we are taking to ensure that we're doing our best to maintain that fishery. But
I agree, Scottie, and I think that, like, we are just, I don't even know where we are anymore because we've had such warm winters and springs the last couple of years. And this one hasn't been terribly cold, but we haven't had consistent weather, right? So like we'll have like last week, and you mentioned it with Jim. Like, was it last Sunday? No, that's wrong. Last Monday or Tuesday, it went to like 27 degrees. I think it was Tuesday, 27.
Yep.
And then the next morning it was 1.
Yeah.
Like I walked out of I went to work Tuesday morning, and dude, I'm bringing like the big duffel bag on this trip because every day the weather is just doing something. And I was basically down to like shorts and a t-shirt Tuesday afternoon. And then Wednesday morning, I had to get my toque on. And like I didn't bring my like full floater coat, but I wish I did because I had a vest and I had a fleece and I had a raincoat over top. I had like 4 layers on. Like it was, and the whole week was like that. It was always cool in the morning, and then the afternoon it would get up to like mid-teens, like up to 17 or 18. But it hasn't been like that every day. We'll have one nice day, then one cold day. So this weekend it was like 11 or 12 degrees every day, and it was raining, like not hard, but just intermittently rained for 2 days. And even today in Burlington, it rained most of the day, off and on. It was, and it's just cool, right? So.
Well, it's a unique storm that we have right now. Not to get too much into the weather, but it's all coming from the east. It's an easterly wind that and usually you don't get that for as long. For the duration isn't as long as we're going to see because it's going to go into tomorrow and possibly Wednesday as well. So they say tomorrow's rain is going to be the most, but this easterly flow off the lake, we don't typically see that. So and
you're right. Like typically, if you get an east wind, it lasts for a day, and and then usually if you get east wind at all, because most of our winds are prevailing from the west, westerly, or south. Like usually the wintertime, it's more northwesterly, and in the summer it's more southwesterly. That's the jet stream. In where we are in North America, most of our weather patterns are coming from that southwest, moving up from the Gulf. And now these low pressure systems are counterclockwise, and so they'll cause an east wind as they spiral across the landscape, but not usually for this many days in a row. But what's been happening is we have high pressure around us. And I actually was on Instagram this morning, and I saw some stories from buddies up in I actually checked the temperature up in Levine, where we're going to be staying for this tournament in 2 weeks or less than 2 weeks. And it was 18 degrees yesterday there, and it was 11 where I was, and even up my buddies up in like Thunder Bay, I think they were warmer than us yesterday. So there was some so this low pressure system that we had is like stuck under a high pressure system. That makes sense, Scottie.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and that just causes like just wild weather this time of year. And it looks like May. I actually did some sort of digging tonight before the show. And this is going to impact anglers. Like the first 2 weeks of May are going to be cool for most of Ontario. But then by the long weekend, we should see a warming trend coming in. So not real warm, but like that trending, we're going to get out of those single digits, I think. So, yeah.
And George is sharing basically what we've been saying for a couple of weeks now, that everything's normal. This is normal. I know a lot of folks think it's behind and we're late. We're actually right on time. Yeah. This is exactly what it should be.
Yeah, and it's funny that there's all this hype at work because the past 3 or 4 years we've been so warm in the winter and spring that most of our field programs are based on us getting out like right after they spawn, like most of our fish species, right? So we're rushing to get out because as soon as those water temperatures get up, we need to be out there. And it's a panic because we got April 1st is like our new year. So we have to bring students in, get them hired, get the equipment ready. And some of the stuff you can't do in the wintertime, it's just, you can't even get outside because things are plowed in with snow.
Exactly.
Long story short, in the end, Scottie, like we're rushing to get out there. And this year we rushed and we're out here. And I think things are actually a little bit normal. And so we're actually ahead of ourselves, and we're not wasting time, but we're definitely seeing, man, we probably could have waited a few more days or even a week, but it's hard to tell though, like with these, like we get into what's called growing degree days. And you'll hear this talked about in the agricultural realm, where how many degree days of a certain warmth you'll get to trigger like budding on the trees. Like I know a
100%.
lot of my sister's family and their friends are all apple growers, right? So growing degree days, but growing degree days are also important for fish. And they need so many growing degree days. Different species have different spawning preferences, but just because the temperature hits the spawning temperature doesn't mean they'll spawn right away. There has to be a sort of a gradual climb, and it has to stay there to a certain level before they'll even think about spawning. As it goes up and down, those fish get delayed. So, but it's great to hear that the walleye are on par. And this has been my guess for most fish species that I'm seeing this year, is it's a normal year, which is late from what we're used to, right?
Yeah, 100%. I have to get you to put on your Fish ID guru hat.
Sure.
I got shared a video. Sorry, not a video, a photo.
Yeah.
And I don't know the answer. I'm hoping you will. It is definitely a char/trout species, but I'm not 100% sure I'm convinced what species it is. I know the picture's a little dark. It's not super identifiable in terms of the markings, but like I would almost hazard a guess that's closer to a tiger trout than a lake trout.
I would guess that's a tiger trout. Yeah. Just those vermiculation markings on the side. So, tiger trout are they're sterile. They don't reproduce. And it has to be, and I could be wrong without looking it up. It's either a male, I think it's a male brook trout and a female brown trout, or the other way around. And it has to be in that certain order, and they actually end up being sterile. So but yeah, and actually it's funny you show that picture because someone else sent me that picture. It wasn't you.
Oh,
but
really?
I've seen 3 or 4 other tiger trout pictures this week online. You might know him, Jesse Whalen, who does a lot of steelheading. He actually caught a couple of tiger trout this week and sent me some pictures to help verify them, and very nice specimens. Now, this one here, so the tiger trout that Jesse caught, and you can't quite see it in this picture, but where the gentleman's or woman, I don't know, where the hands are, those fins just to the top of the hands, those are the pectoral fins, right?
Mm-hmm.
And those fins, if it was a true tiger trout, you would actually have a bit of a white leading edge on those fins, which is typical of a brook trout. Most tiger trout that I've seen will have that, and that's typical of char. So Arctic char, lake trout, brook trout, Dolly Varden, they'll have that white leading edge. That first ray is white. And I can't quite see that on this one, but I'm looking at those markings down the side, and those aren't brook trout markings. Those are very typical of a tiger trout marking. Yeah.
So it's interesting, George. You mentioned that they were primarily stocked out in the western provinces. And to answer your question, Steve, this was caught in a tributary in New York State. So it's an outflow to Lake Ontario. Have we ever seen tiger trout caught in Lake Ontario before, Jay?
It's probably not unheard of, Scotty. You got brown trout and brook trout, right? So it's I know that they are. George is right. They're bred and raised out west. It's almost like stocking splake, right? They don't reproduce,
right?
So they're a great put and take fish. And if you've actually watched, I'm trying to think of who are those brothers. Who are those?
Conrad.
I've seen them do tiger trout fishing, and Jake Siemens do tiger trout fishing. So it's not uncommon out west to see them, but they're very uncommon in Ontario. And I'm actually surprised we don't dabble with tiger trout, because we do stock splake. It's interesting. I'm not sure why we don't do that, because I assume they'd be very similar to rays
now
for a put and take fishery. So.
Well, this is the thing, because as I said, I don't think I've ever seen a photo in Ontario. I've seen a couple shared with us from Quebec, lots from out west, but very rarely do you see them out this way. So very cool. Now, I think I may have somehow fell asleep under a rock. There is a video that I'm about to share, and I'm going to do this for our buddy Steve, who loves his bass. So Steve, this is for you. But Jay, you got to help me explain this fish, because it just doesn't seem normal. So I almost want to sort of create a segue. Is this a monster or is this a myth? Because I know nothing about this fish, but I want to know more.
So that's a real fish. That was actually that is the tied fish to the world record, and I'll explain why it's tied. So the world record is 22 pounds 4 ounces, caught by George Perry in Georgia, and that fish was 22 pounds. If you do the conversion, I believe it was 3 ounces. Or maybe 5 ounces. I forget. It's 1 ounce different than the world record. And to be a recognized world record, and don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure it has to beat it by 2 ounces to beat it. So it's considered a tie if it's 1 ounce. This is IGFA rules. So that fish is considered the tie. And that was caught in Lake Bukwai in Japan. And that's in the last 10 years, if not the last 5 years. I think it was within the last 10 years.
Okay, this is the first I've seen this. I apologize for everybody who has already seen it.
That's okay.
Scottie, thanks for waking up. But when I saw this, the 10.12 kilograms, this is what caught me. I'm like, okay, that's a 10-pound bass. And then this pops up, and I'm like, wait a minute, kilograms? This thing's over 20 pounds. Holy jumping.
Yeah.
The picture at the end, like, what was this thing eating?
Yeah.
Like,
so
ducks,
I got it.
swans?
Thanks to AI and Google. It was 22 pounds 5 ounces, so 1 ounce more than the world record, caught by Manabu Kurita in Lake Biwa, Japan, on July 2nd, 2009. So that's more than 10 years. And that technically tied George Perry's 1932 record. What else does it say here? So yeah, IGFA rules state that a fish under 25 pounds must exceed the previous. So a fish under 25 pounds must exceed the previous record by at least 2 ounces to be considered a new record. Kurita's bass weighed 22 pounds 5 ounces, which is 1 ounce more than the previous record, but not enough to be a new record. There you go, Scott.
Interesting. Yeah. I knew you'd have the answer, dude. I knew you'd have the answer, but I was just absolutely my colleague. He's like, "What are you looking at?" And I said, "Dude, I'm looking at a monster. This is a freakish fish." But as George saying, this lake is known for these big fish.
Yeah, and but these lakes get incredible amounts of pressure in Japan, and this is why the Japanese sort of that JDM market is so cool, because they've developed so many unique baits to help basically to give fish something new to see all the time. Like, I'm being very blunt, and I think that's the best way to put it. So they're developing all these cool new baits, new technology in baits to give them a chance to catch more fish. And in Lake Biwa and a bunch of other lakes in Japan, they are just incredibly tough to fish because there's so much pressure, nothing like we see here. But the fish are there and the fish are big. And I remember talking with a buddy of mine from Texas, Tim Cook, who was the BASS conservation director there for a long time. And we talked one night that we were at one of the Bassmaster Classics, and we were having dinner, and we were talking about fishing, of course. And he's like, you don't know what it's like until you've caught like a 15-pound bass or bigger. You can't appreciate how big a big bass is. Does that make sense, Scottie? Like they fight so much harder. Like he says, it is unbelievable the difference. Like he had asked me what my biggest fish was, and at the time, I think my biggest fish was 6 pounds or 6 ounces, 6 pounds 6 ounces. And he's like, "That's nothing, man." He goes, he said, no ill will to me. He goes, but that's nothing. Like these double-digit fish, so I couldn't imagine a 22-pound largemouth. And if you look at them, they just look so different, right? Now, but let's back up for a minute. I just thought about this, Scottie.
Oh.
With all the new genetics out there, right? So now that bass is considered a largemouth, but going forward, because we don't know the genetic history of it, and this is what's changed the game for record largemouth, is now that the genetics have changed, there's all kinds of world records opportunities that are opened up and line class records. Because technically it's a new species now, right? So
incredible.
Yeah. There's actually Ken Duke did an entire podcast on this about how the new genetic anomalies, I'll call them, in bass species will open up a bunch of new, not just world records, but line class records as well. So.
Okay, and then I see this. Also, the government wants anglers to kill the invasive bass.
Yeah.
Why? Like, why is that, Jay? I already know the answer. It's a rhetorical question.
I know.
Here we are. This is a trophy bass fishery, and they're targeted. You have the Columbia River that we talked about last week. The trophy walleye they have, they're targeted. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, like even the Columbia River is home to some of the biggest smallmouth bass in North America, and they are not treated as a native species there, and so they get treated the same as the walleye there, which is not nice, right? Yeah, I know.
Where we don't want them, we have them in great abundance and at trophy class.
Yeah, I see both sides of it because I understand where everyone's coming from, but it's as an angler, it's a tough pill to swallow, right? So
100%. You shared a link with us. This is Trevor's new YouTube channel.
Jump on his YouTube channel, everybody. He's gonna start doing some content. So he's working away on his YouTube career. So it's good. Like I'm pretty proud. He's very focused on doing this now, and I think as a dad, hey, there's a lot of things kids could be doing out there. Even though he spends all of his dude, I wish he would clean his room. I wish he would do a lot of things once in a while instead of making fishing videos. But this is his passion. So I just tell him, just make sure you keep your marks up. That's all. But that's the cliche parent thing to say, right? So
100%. And you have to. We're forced to. But at the end of the day, there are far worse things that he could be doing. So good for you, Trevor. Keep up.
He had a big weekend 2 weekends ago. If you go online, he took Avery Bonin trout fishing.
Nice.
So the day after opener, so Avery reached out to Trevor and asked if he would take her fishing. So Kate, Trevor's girlfriend, and so Trevor was basically the guide for Kate and Avery, and they drove around our county and a couple neighboring counties for the day. I was the day after trout opener, and Avery did a YouTube video. So if you folks know Avery Bonin and her YouTube video, definitely go check it out. It's pretty cool. So
is it already posted, Jay?
Yeah, they posted it. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Okay, right on. We'll share that tomorrow.
Yeah, if you go on her Facebook page or her Instagram, you'll see she's been promoting it a little bit. She does all those great little videos with Clara and her dad and all those things. So she did a video with Trevor and Kate. It was pretty cool. So but it was tough fishing because it was the day after trout opener, right? So there was a lot of footprints along the bank from what Trevor told me. So I'm like, that's awesome. I did say it was probably not the best. Oh yeah, thanks. I appreciate that, brother. Yeah. He also has the big news coming up, which I won't announce for him, but I will let him announce it. But there's some big things coming in the next couple of weeks from him, so it's pretty cool, actually. Like I'm probably a little jealous. I'm a little jealous, actually.
From Trevor?
Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, he's got some cool stuff coming up. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, dude, I know you're tired. You got a big day, long day ahead of you tomorrow, so I don't want to take up too much more of your time, not to mention the games on in the background. So
Yeah.
I will leave you to enjoy what is left of the hockey game. But again, big shout out, thank you, dude, for showing up here on Mondays like you do and sharing your time with us. We really appreciate it.
Appreciate you, man. Thanks for everyone for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.
We will be absolutely. We will be in touch, Jay. You take care.
All right.
Drive safe.
See you guys.
All the best, bud. All right. Well, that ends our show for tonight. Thanks, everybody, for joining me. I know it was not the best of times based on what is on the big tube right now. Toronto's up 2-0, which is good if you are a Toronto fan. If you're not, we won't hold it against you. At the end of the day, we will have a power hour on Wednesday. Danny's going to be joined with me, of course, and we have a special new guest that will be joining us, Jamie, that we'll be interviewing and getting to know on Wednesday. So stay tuned to that at 8 o'clock. Until then, have yourselves a great week. Again, I can't emphasize it enough. Try and stay positive. Try and just drown out all of the drama and negativity that's going on right now because of what just happened with the election. At the end of the day, we don't need that to define us or divide us. We just need to be respectful of others, and don't turn it into a witch hunt. People are entitled to their opinions. They may not be yours, and just leave it at that. Let's just move on. Let's be bigger people. Let's be better people, and let's go fishing. That's what it's all about, in my opinion. You know what? Enjoy the game. Enjoy your week. We'll see you on Wednesday. Love all you guys. Keep up the great work, and thanks so much for your support. Dave, it's time to take us away. It's on you, baby. You know what to do.
Well, as much as I hate to admit it, I guess we've run out of time. So I've enjoyed it, but I'm going to do something I haven't done since season 1. Turn out the lights, the party's over. They say that all good things must end.